Hi, I'm Bet from Bet's Makes, and today we're going to make a simple origami ornament. And you can see an example here right on the screen. They are really easy to make, but you do have to make the framework in order to get there. So taking origami into Design Space and then creating your own is a lot simpler than trying to measure and fold. So let's get going on this project. I'm just going to go to New Project, and I'm just going to replace this one. And I'm going to my uploads, and I'm going to upload an image. Just click on Browse. And this particular image happens to be on my D drive, my monthly makes, and December. And we have the simple origami ornament right here. Let's bring that in. And I'm going to upload it and bring it in on the canvas. Now, this is a fairly simple project, but you'll notice it looks like a lot of cut lines. Well, when you're doing an origami object, you don't want the cut lines in the center. You need them to be fold lines. So if you take a look here in the layers panel, you'll see the basic cut right at the top here. You want to change that to score. It should show up red when you bring in this particular file. So I'm going to change that to score. And you'll see there's little holes already cut in it. That makes the project a lot smaller. And I am going to attach it just to make sure those score lines stay intact. And then you'll notice my width here is 9.825 by 5.5. That is not a bad size. It's approximately 10 inches. So all we need to do with this project is so simple, is make sure you duplicate this, because we're going to cut two. And rather than feeding the mat in twice, I can simply have two on the screen. So I'm using my Maker 3 today. So let me just save this. And this is going to be origami ornament. And that is December 2021. Just to make sure I am in there, I'm going to see if I've got some December makes in here. And I don't. I'm going to make a new collection and call it December makes. And that's way I can always get back to it a little later. That looks good. Let's just save it. Perfect. All right. So let's go ahead and make it. And make sure my machine is on, and it is. And I usually just push it down to the bottom, and then I can cut one piece about 6 inches, another one about 6 inches, and that will give me everything I need for this project. And because I'm on the Maker 3, I'm going to have to choose whether I want to go on matte or not. And didn't ask me, but all I need to do is now figure in putting my single scoring wheel, and then it's coming up with a fine point blade. So we are ready to go ahead, and we are ready to cut this. Now, I've already taken the time to pre-cut this, so I didn't have to go through the same process. And what I used was just a standard grip mat, and then I just used a plain paper that I had on hand, just a medium paper. So let me just get rid of the extras here. Same at the top. Now you'll notice it's not actually cutting that wavy spot that we were looking at, but that will come off when I turn this off. Let me just move this out of the way so that we can start working on this. I'm just going to slide it back. I want to slide my whole desk. Just slide it back out of the way. And I'm going to be using some glue, so I'm going to use this little glue mat. Okay, so what I want to do is just pull off the pieces that I want. And you'll notice it leaves back the triangles. And I don't need those pieces. I only want those center pieces. And just pulling it off like that. I have two of them. That off a little later. I roll the mat so that I don't bend the pieces of paper. Now I'm going to take that off of there momentarily. I won't do it right this second. But as you can see, now I end up with two nice pieces that are going to eventually glue together. So Eventually we'll take these and we'll just glue the edges together like this so everything matches up. I'll turn this one upside down. I want to make sure the holes match too. There we go. You can see where the holes match at the same time. There they are, right there. So everything is going to match. We will glue them together, but I'm going to fold them first before I glue them. Now, when we go to fold these, the easiest thing to do is just take every score line that you can see and simply just work it back and forth initially. Make it really quick. I'm just going to do it on one of these, and then I'm going to put it together from the other one that I have. These going like this. You'll do the same with the other one. I'm just going to use a Cricut burnishing tool here to make those nice and crisp, because you do want them crisp. Now inside here, we also have some other score lines that you should be able to see. You're very light in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at those score lines and then just give them a little push going both ways. So I have them pre-bent before I start trying to fold what I'm working on here. So that's a little hard to see. There we go. I'm just going to go through, and where is that other one? You can barely see it, but once you bend, it gets there. Now this is a fairly stiff paper. And for ornaments, I like it to be pretty stiff when I start to work on it. And I'm not bending them really hard right now, just enough so that I can see those score lines. So when I go to work with them, I'll be able to bend them a lot easier. There we go. And remember, this is origami style. So it's a lot of paper folding, and it's not just cut something and put it out. You can make these very individualized. Now with this type of paper in here, you'll notice that it's pretty thick on the way we go. Now we want to fold this, and the way we fold it is going to end up looking like this, and it'll end up folding exactly like this. So you'll see them come through this way. Now, the piece that ends up on this side, when you fold it, this is going to be the outside. So I've left it at the white side when we go to put it together, and then the inside is going to be the colored pieces. But you may want to have your colored pieces on the outside. So that will depend on how you're going to fold this. So the first time you go through, it's going to be a little difficult to get the first one going, because one of them has to come up, and then you push and make the other one go down. Now this becomes the tough part, and this is why I wanted you to pre-fold it. So you can see where the edge is right there. And as you fold it, one of them is going to come over the top, just like that. So you can see where I'm bending it down. So this is up. I've got to push this so it goes down. Doesn't make it that easy because you want it to go down. And you have to get all the edges down, 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 down. There we go. I got it down. Make sure it's all down. So this piece has to come up. And you're going to have to work your way all the way through in order to keep one of these down and the other one up. And I'm just taking where that fold is. It's right there. So I'm going to bring this one down here. I've got to push this one in. And that's why I wanted everything pre-cut, because initially it's really tough to get them going in opposite directions. So even at that, it's going to be a bit of a struggle to get the very first one done. And that is the big key to the whole thing, is getting that first one into place. And then once that happens, the rest is going to be easy, because you're going to be able to take and fold them into place just like this. This one is going to go down here, but up here. So we know this one's an up. And we can get to the edge piece of it, and then this one goes down. I always struggle with the very first one, so don't worry about it if it becomes a little tough for you to work with initially. It will get there, and the whole goal is to get it to fold over so it looks like this. So I'm getting close. This one's just got to push in. This is a heavier paper, so it's a little difficult to work with. Yeah, so you just push down, and it looks like we are going to be okay with this. This has got to go down. All right. Let's get that one down in there. I'm going to turn it around so it goes down first. And I've got to push this one up, and I know it looks messy initially. Down. This one goes up. Just getting that first little squeeze in there to get it going. There we go. So now we seem to have it the way we want it for really close. Okay. Just have a lot of fun with this. Okay, so we know these ones are coming this way. I'm just going to fold a few into place here. I'm having difficulty with this one. Okay, so we know we want these ones to come this way for sure, but we want these ones going in the opposite direction. So here's where the difficulty has come in, because it wants to go in the other direction. So now we have to hold this one will be up, and this one is down. There we go, and this one is down. Now I know it looks a little tough, but this is a tougher piece of paper. So let me take this one apart, the one that we've already done. So the whole goal behind it, this is just a tougher piece of paper. So I hold this down, and it goes from side to side, and it will pinch that inside piece, and you've got to score it right down inside there. So the same thing here. I want this one up, and we are going to pinch these two pieces together. It's going to be up, this is going to be down, so let me just get that down piece going here. Oh, fold it over. Just doesn't want to cooperate for me. Opposite way. This one up, that one down. Up. Oh, the fun with paper. There we go. Almost there. Bring it around. There we go. We finally got it to behave. Same thing for all of these. And as you can see, I've got the papers pinched here. So this is going to be down. This one is going to be up. And it is getting your fingers in there and just weaving it the way through. Now I'm having a little difficulty with that one because I picked a thicker paper. So let's just open this up a bit. So as you can see, I made this one up and this one down. So when you first start, you're going to be pushing these two pieces on the edge together here. And the same thing on this and this. As you go through, you just pinch and go through. And this is a lighter paper, so it worked a lot better. And you have to work your way all the way through to the other side. And that one's down, so this one should be up at the end. There we go. So we end up with something that looks like this. Now, I hate to give up on anything. So we know those two pieces are going to come together. And we know those two pieces are going to come. So I have a down on that one. And I want an up on this one. As you can see them come together a little better on this one. Fold those over. Go up on this one. I've got to come down on this one. This paper is not going to cooperate for me. Not very well anyway. Okay, looks like we got one piece to go. Bring this one out. Paper is just too stiff. Okay. So let Karina just cut this little piece out. I'm going to start over with the folding. Okay, what we're going to do now. All right, let's start by folding some of these pieces into place. Just going to make them go in both directions so that we can work the folds a lot easier. This is a pretty stiff piece of paper, so it's going to be a little harder to work into place. Don't worry about extra folds at this piece because we know we can make this work quite easily. I just want to fold it back and forth until I get a nice crisp fold on both sides all the way through. More here. This one, the same thing, both ways. There we go. Now we have our initial piece of paper, but we also have little score lines in here. And sometimes it's a little tough to get to those score lines, but those score lines also have to be nice and crisp. I'm going to get them to the edge and then I'm going to crisp them right up. And that's just to get our fold going on the first one. You can see I have a nice crisp arrow. And if I bring this out, I want to push this one in because what I want to do is have a nice pattern that's going to look like this. Push that one in and that one out. And you can see where you start to push it in, how you're getting that nice looking little pattern. So I have to make sure that we fold that together coming down here. That's a little tough. There we go. It just popped into place. All right. So that one's up. So this one has to be down. And that one's down. This one has to be up. So as you can see, we've got the up and down pattern just starting here. And I know this paper is a little stiff, so sometimes it's going to get into the way. But if you follow it through, each one of these has little marks on it for the next little fold. And that's why we had score lines put into place here. So we're going to find our next little score line. And there it is. And then we'll bring the next one together just like that. And then we'll come through and do the same thing. As you can see, I'm just going to the score lines here. This is going to come down. It's going to a score line. And then down to a score line. Find the score line. There it is. Then I'm just twisting it one at a time and I'm just aiming for those score lines. And that just makes it a lot easier when you're bending it from side to side. Make sure I'm on the score line here. Looks pretty good. All right, next score line is here. Next score line is here. Let's go to this side. There's the next score line. I'll bring this one up for the final score line. So now we have a piece that looks exactly like the other one, and I've got the folds exactly the way I want. Now this is one I was struggling with from before because I needed it to go from score line to score line. I want that to go score line together. And then I want this score line to go together. You can see it'll start to fold. This one just doesn't seem to want to behave the way I want it to. but there's my score lines on the back, but I want it to go the other way around. So let's try it the other way. Go from this edge. I've got the score lines. And I want to move this from score line to score line. So I'm actually going to make sure that we fold it over in the way we want. You'll see I have the white piece on one side and the pattern on the other. And this one wants to go in the wrong direction. So I just have to flip it up so I get the right score line. There we go, score line. Remember, you're just matching up the score lines as you go. Goes in the wrong direction. We know this one has to go up. So I'm catching that score line, pushing this one up, and I'm matching the score line. Do the same here, just matching the score lines as we go. Sure, get the score line here and the score line here. Looks good. Okay, we're going to hit the score line here. This one has to go down. Get that score line. And when you start working with paper like this, sometimes it just won't cooperate. Like the beginning I did on this one, it just wouldn't fold properly. But once you've got the first one into place, it's actually quite easy because all you're doing now is matching up the score lines to make sure things fit the way you want to have them fit. So that score line goes down here. Looks good. Now this score line has to go together. And then finally we have the last piece. So now we have folded it up. They both look, but this is a thinner one. And I'm not going to use a thinner one. I just wanted to show you an example of what it's going to be. Okay, so next step here is I'm just going to open these up because what we want to do is make this one giant ball before we get going with it. Now, some people will use double-sided tape, and I'm just going to flip this, see if I can get these patterns to match as best as possible. There we are. I'm matching the holes in here. They might not, yep, they do match. So what we're going to do is just glue these two pieces together. So we have a nice long one, and then we're going to glue the outside pieces together. So let's just start by just adding a little glue, and I'm just using the original tacky glue here. I don't have to have 100% here. Just want to make sure it just stays together. Careful not to glue the hole in place. Okay. Add a little lid here. Now I'm going to match this up as best I can. Try and match the little holes that are in here. So where's my hole at the top? There it is. And I tried to cut these so I got as close as possible on those. And this is the reason I use the tacky glue, so I can move things around. Okay, so we just have to let that dry a little bit. Looks really good, because the next part of the process is we're going to have to come over here and do the same thing on the opposite side. And we're just going to glue those into position right here. And then we'll have a complete circle that we're going to start to put together. Okay, let me just add some glue here. Same process. Okay. Just want to make sure we get our holes in the right place. So I'm going to need those holes in a second. Just have to let that dry for a second. Now, one of the things that I didn't mention right at the beginning is that you're going to need a couple of things, and I'll put it in the description below the video here, is you are going to need some kind of needle and thread or something to that effect that will put through the little holes at the top, and that's just to hold your ornament together. Now you also have a choice of holding your ornament together at the bottom at the same time. But right now, all we're going to do is we're going to gather this together at the top and then at the bottom eventually. And I'll just push this into place. Okay. I'm just going to gather this little bit by little bit. I want to make sure that it'll all fit together. The only thing you'll have to adjust a little bit are the ones that you glued together. They may not bend as well as you want. There we go. A couple of spots where they're glued together. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to sew the top of this together. As you can see, now that I've pushed it into place. Something that one goes down. There we go. You can see it forms that beautiful little ornament, but now we have to keep the top together, and that's where I start using, and this is just twist paper twine that I'm using, and I'm just going to leave it open-ended. So I'm going to find a starting spot. I'm going to try find one of the double pieces that we have here. There's one right there. I'm going to use that as my starting spot, because then I'm not too concerned at that point that that'll be at the back, so everything is going to match. So I'm just going to take my needle and go through. You may have to work it a little bit and just leave enough here to tie off at the end. Then I'm just simply going to go through all the holes, do a couple at a time, because what we're going to do is bind this together. Just get my needle going through here, just a couple at a time. I usually use a longer piece, but for demo purposes, this is what we're doing today. And we will join it up later. Okay, so first 3 into place. Just do a couple at a time. This particular needle does not have a sharp edge, so kids can do this project as well. Just getting the head of the needle through the holes. Maybe I'll try it one at a time next. Remember, I'm not pulling it too tight, so just do one at a time. I'm going to do it the same at the bottom. And this is just so you have something to bind it together. Now, if you decide not to put it through the bottom, that's fine too, because even if you decide not to do that, you can leave it open, so it could be like a lamp. Just a couple more to go here. Say I'll do them one at a time, and this is just to hold it together. You've done all the folding, you've done all the hard work. Okay, you want to end it with the same one where you started. Let's see. Go. This one, and then back through the original. And that's just so we can tie it off through the original. Last one's going to have a couple of spots for it. Okay. We're all the way through. I'm going to remove my needle and find the 2 end pieces here. And then we're going to start gathering this together and then just pulling through. So get it nice and tight the way you want it. There we go. And as you can see, we've got a nice tight top piece here. So what you can do is just simply tie it off. What I tend to do is I will bring it across and underneath one of the back pieces, and I'm just going to open it up a bit. And that's so I can form a loop at the top. This is a paper string, so sometimes it's a little tougher to get through than normal. You could use wool. That through. Now I'm going to be able to pull those together as tight as I want, and then just put a little loop at the top. Now it doesn't look like much right now, but you can make it a lot fancier than what I have. So that would be the top. Now we're going to go through now, and we're going to do the same thing with the bottom, just to make sure everything fits together. Just make sure they're all pushed the way they should be. So that one should go down. There we go. Now we can do the same thing here, because what we're going to do here is also close up the bottom, and that'll make your ornament. Now this has to come down a little more. That's the glued piece. So that is looking really cute. So all we're going to do now is we can either glue this together, or you can take your needle and thread all the way through the bottom. And try and start at the same spot where the other one, so everything sits to the back. So I'm not going to put that together, because you can also spread this out and make this a little lantern at the same time. So there's a couple of other possibilities for it, and here is the other one. So just to recap, you need the downloadable for the pattern. In the classes that I have, I teach you how to make these patterns right into Design Space. So you may want to consider taking a couple of my courses, and you'll learn a lot about different parts of Design Space. And I put this pattern together right into Design Space. I also have it in SVG format, and that's available through the Crafters Club as well. So this is a very simple, nice little project you can work on. Very few tools are needed. I just have some, this is twist paper twine. You can use any kind of twine you want. I have an open needle. That was just a blunt end so that I can thread it through. I used tacky glue to make sure everything was in place. And of course, I used my Maker 3, but you could use your Explorer family or some of the older ones as well, as long as you can cut that SVG file. I also used my scraper to make everything nice and crisp, and that's all that there is to this project. So I hope you had a lot of fun with this, and until next time, happy crafting.